There have been reports that other countries that are operating in Nigeria, which are involved in exporting, are getting this export grant more than indigenous companies.
I think I would not like to make too much comments on that. We know where we live. We know what our challenge is. Corruption is part of the problem. So, and then if that is the major challenge that we have, then it means that it applies to practically everything, and this will not be an exception. Because they already have a lot of advantages, and then they also have the advantage maybe of getting it quicker than other people after the listing, and then some other things that could be happening. So it's you see, I am not really a non-oil export person. I am an export consultant ranging across. I have 28 years in this. I've been a banker. I currently consult and I teach. So I meet people on a daily basis. I have clients who are encountering this
and they
this
can
challenge.
attest to this form of challenge.
Of course.
They are local manufacturers, but are not getting access to this export grant.
I think it would be wrong to say they are not getting access. There are challenges of accessing it. Maybe how long it takes and the rest of them. Maybe, again, bureaucracy. Because, I mean, it's not a private sector that is doing it, it's a public sector, so you expect the usual bureaucracy from there. Then, of course, if they are not in a position to wait longer, you know, for a small business, it's like a lifeline. If it doesn't come early enough, then you probably die off before it eventually arrives.
So, how do you think Nigeria can actually address its trade imbalance? Because if, for instance, you talked about shea and shea nuts, we produce almost the largest
60%
of that,
world, yeah.
And we're not on the forefront of exports in that category. How do you think Nigeria can address this trade imbalance, you know, when you compare what you do with other countries?
I think it starts from evolving a proper export culture. Going back to shea nut, I'm aware that in 2013 the World Shea Alliance is coming to Nigeria, and I'm also aware that the Ministry of Trade and Investment is going to be part of the decision. Between now and when the World Shea Alliance conference comes to Nigeria in 2013, we need to sit back and strategically look at that product. What is the issue with the quantity that we're producing? People are simply crossing raw nuts to Cotonou, to foreigners' warehouses, and the raw nuts, the price is very low. It's only when you crush, when you have shea butter, which is what they call ori, that's where the money is. The shea butter, that's where the value is. Cosmetic companies, these chocolate companies are looking for it all around the world. What can we do? I am also aware that the Niger State government have built a shea village. So I'm just going through all that so that there are products we need to identify where we have comparative advantage. Then we create competitive advantage on that very particular product, because comparative advantage alone does not lead anybody anywhere any longer.
Okay, you mentioned earlier on that in the US, the president has been able to put in place an initiative to bring back jobs into the country.
Yes.
We've seen effort by our own government as well in that regard. Maybe not enough from your perspective in terms of having to do this WIN initiative, having to build up entrepreneurs from the scratch and all that. If you sum all of this together, do you think that we'll be able to meet up and address the challenges facing the non-oil export?
I think it's not rocket science. It's not rocket science. It's achievable. It's easy. We have the people, we have the resources, we have everything that we need. I think it's a more coordinated approach, which is why I was trying to elevate it to presidential level. Because when a president says, this is what I want to concentrate on, everybody sits up. South African government said, we want to pursue two things. The other one is tourism, the other one is outsourcing. I mean, that's a policy statement. Then everybody says, if Obama says, I'm setting up an export initiative, I am going to be the chairman, the vice president is this, the minister of this is that, it sends a very strong signal, not only locally but also internationally. And everybody sits up and things start to happen. So that is it. That is not to indict the agencies that are currently manning the export sector. Because in my opinion, I think that the agencies have too much responsibilities. Exporting thrives on a tripod. development, promotion, and capacity building. All these three responsibilities are saddled on one institution that is probably not getting enough resources from government to be able to execute that.
Okay, maybe I should just add this to what you've been saying. We've seen involvement of some agencies, so like say government parastatals. The BOI, for instance, is one that has been involved in breeding and grooming the non-oil sector. We also have the Nigerian Export-Import Bank. Now, how well have these institutions and many others been able to tackle the challenges facing the non-oil export?
I think one thing we need to adopt performance measures in this country, because what happens is that you see a lot of motion but no action. What I'm saying in essence is that, can we sit back and say those agencies you mentioned, they trained 2,000 people from January to December.
They've been financing some businesses.
Well, I know, but I'm saying let us still measure. If you prepared 200 people, how many of those people have been able to export? Export activities in the bush is not on television screens. Do you understand what I'm saying? So we need to have figures. Again, we don't have statistics that much. Because if you look at the statistics we have in Nigeria as to what Nigeria exported and look at what International Trade Center in Geneva has, you see a very wide difference, which means that something is wrong somewhere. Either we're not capturing it or the information we have is strong and the rest of them. If we're able to measure, then we know where we're failing, and then we'll know where we need to beef up. I think it's just a general thing. We could just say, we're doing well. How well are you doing? In these days, it's about numbers. If you say you were contributing 2% to GDP, now you are contributing 7%, it becomes clear. The numbers are there, and then we can verify it. So what I'm saying is that the agencies need to also come together. That's another challenge that we have. There are too many government agencies talking about export here and there, and they are not coordinated. It's true that if one is running a program, you can call one from the other agency to come and make a presentation. At the end of the day, what does all this come to?
Now, the agencies involved in coordinating exports, how well have they fared?
Well, I guess individually, every one of them is doing something. But I think a coordinated approach will work better. Nigeria Export Promotion Council is the agency of government saddled with the responsibility of both development and promotion of exports. Of course, that does not mean that no other, of course, SMEDAN is an agency that works with SMEs. BOI is a funding agency. I know also that BOI houses the AGOA Resource Center. Then, of course, you have CBN, which I'm also aware is doing something. Last week, Thursday and Friday at Ikeja Airport Hotel, there was a sensitization seminar on export, which was non-oil export, which was organized by CBN. NEXIM is also there, and some other agencies. I think that the anchor agency should be the one coordinating the effort of all these other agencies. Because that's part of the reason why we do not have numbers. That's part of the reason we cannot really measure and say that this is what we have achieved. If everybody is just going about doing their own thing.